Hey, bro. So you finally reached the point where you've accepted the fact that God, you've got me, and I'm ready to take on the entire world for you. And I want to do this, I want to do that, set up things for my family. But I want to tell you right now, there's three things that you need to know before you even go even further of why your mindset needs to be changed for the better of things to come. My name's Pastor Devin, and you're watching. You good, bro? What's going on, y'all? You're watching another episode. Thank you for coming along. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Like, God is just truly, totally moving. And I really appreciate this. And I thank you for coming along on this journey. But without further ado, we're going to talk about, in this episode, what it looks like for us to have a new mindset shift. Pretty much, I've talked at countless times on this channel about my personal experiences about how my life, my mind has essentially been changed off of knowing who he really is and what it really is, what it really means to be a Christian man, a Christian dad, a Christian mentor, pretty much. And I am truly at awe in what he's able to do on a daily basis. I'm not just talking about monthly, I'm talking about daily basis for me. And I'm eager to share this thing with you today. But let's go ahead, like I said, without further ado, jump into this word. Hebrews 5 and 7, New Living Translation, as I try to be all the time. While Jesus was here on earth, he offered prayers and pleadings with a loud cry and tears to the one who could rescue him from death. And God heard his prayers because of his deep reverence for God. This very verse establishes the fact that when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he had done the work, all right? He had done already a good amount of work in terms of showing to the entire region who he was called to be, who he established himself to be, and as the true heir of King Melchizedek, if you keep on reading down in Hebrews 5. But essentially, in this specific verse, we got to point out a couple things. Where it says he offered prayers and pleadings with a loud cry and tears to the one who could rescue him from death, right? We have to go back and look at that point in time where he's essentially praying to God like, Lord, please take this cup from me. All right, please take this cup from me. And he went back into the garden after he went back out to check on his disciples. He went back in and said, and asked again, please take this cup from me. But all in all, there was a specific reverence that he wanted to establish while praying that prayer. All right. He realized who he was called to be. He realized that God, his father, our father, called him to be the rightful heir and the champion to establish a new way of establishing order for us to be sinless, right? And that requires, when you have that understanding, that requires a specific amount of willingness to say, I submit under your will, God. And I know for us men, submission to a higher order is a tall task. Like, I know that there is because we always have things that we need to do, things we need to take care of. Like everything is something's always coming up, right? Like there's always something going on with us where we have to establish and say and say that there is certain things that we need to do. Like when we go into work, or if you're blessed to work for yourself, cool. But sort of the same thing applies because you're adhering to a customer, right? You're submitting your livelihood, your being on establishing the fact like I'm here to do this specific item, do this specific task, all for the greater good of, in those cases, getting money. But in this case, us men have to figure out a way to be more submissive and be stewards under God's new way of living. And so when we always get that task, when we get that feeling to say, all right, I want to go after God, I want to go choose to fight for his way of thinking. I choose to live his life. I choose to be against sin. I choose to fight against anger. I choose to be something bigger. Well, all of that is great, but we have to figure out and make sure that we have our proper foundation set in terms of submitting under his will. And guaranteed after that, after we submit under his will, that's when the new way of life begins. Like for me, for example, I know for a fact that it took me a long time to realize that God is who he says he is, even though I thought I had an understanding of what I thought I already had an understanding of what and who he is. Like I always thought that, if I do these specific things, then he'll honor me, he'll respect me. Yes, that's true, but there's a real reason why my life has changed for the better from a few months back, a few months back to now, where I've established the fact that I understand, all right, God, look, I'm up for whatever, Doc. Like I'm what do you have for me today, man? Like I honestly need you on a daily basis. I obviously require you on a daily basis. I obviously need your new way of life on a daily basis, God. Until I understood what that meant, that's when my mindset changed. That's when I truly submitted under him. That's when my mindset changed to say, all right, look, Devin, I know you want to do this. I know you want to do that. I know you to be the best man possible. I know you want to lead these guys. I know you want to be an example for other people. But all of that is moot unless you keep on grounding your mind into God and submitting under his will. Like I almost made, I can't think of how many times I've made decisions thinking that I was submitted under his will when really I wasn't. Like I can't think of how many times I obviously try to say, all right, Lord, well, this decision is for the better. Is it? Is it really? Doing a Robert De Niro face. Is it really? I can't do it well because I got a beard and everything. But still, the point is, like, that's when it really matters to looking at to look at something like I honestly feel like when we have a true understanding of what his real mindset is, that's when things start to shift. Start to shift for the better. Like my friend, he came into town and he was saying things are definitely starting to shift, and I honestly knew what he meant even without the context. You know what I'm saying? Like when I understood Like, all right, God, this is what life is like, huh? This is what your life is meant to be. This is what true righteousness means. Okay. Now that I know this, now that I know that I'm supposed to be submitted under your will, now that I know that I'm supposed to be living things out for you, cool. Let's do this, God. And all of that matters more, all because of the new mindset that we have to have. So here's these three things that this scripture points out for me that helps contribute to building and establishing your new mindset. This is what it looks like when true submission is done. Like, these are the three things that matter. You know what I'm saying? The first one is the willingness to obey. The willingness to obey. If we go back to the scripture, this verse for today, he offered prayers and pleadings with a loud cry and tears. He didn't want to do this. He didn't want to do any of that. Like, he knew for a fact, Jesus knew for a fact that what he was about to take, the cup he was about to take, was going to be painful. I'd argue more that his human side was going to be more in pain than he really thought. Because there's an extra layer under that. Because he knew for a fact that look, they're going to beat me, they're going to whip me, they're going to lash me. I'm going to have to carry my own cross for miles on end up a hill. I'm going to have to take on all these things. People are going to spit on me, people are going to mock me. Yeah, those are all carnal things. But then there's the spiritual part, where he's going to have to go down to the pits of hell to defeat an enemy, where he's going to have to take care of that part. We always tend to think about the carnal part. Yeah, that's true. That probably hurt a lot too. But then there's the spiritual part, where he has to go fight the devil on his own turf and beat him up. Take the keys with him and go back to heaven. Make a pit stop at earth to prove a point of his immortality, to go back up to heaven to be with his Father. That takes some willingness to understand that I'm going to go through so much hell. I'm going to go through so much pain, so much turmoil, so much angst. I'm going to hate every last bit of it. I do not enjoy this part of this suffering. I will not enjoy it. But I know in the end, it'll all be worth it for my people. That takes willingness, y'all. That takes a strong will to understand that, man, I'm doing this for people that I don't even know right now, that they're going to hate me right now, and then in the future they're going to hate me even more. Like, they're going to hate me even more because we have a quote unquote understanding of life. I know in the future they're going to have these people that are going to believe in sciences and unbelievable carnal medications and everything. But I'm still here. That takes a willingness. That takes a strong will to understand that. So it's only right that we have that perfect example of what a strong will looks like, to do something that we know is going to hurt. That's what true submission looks like. we know, I know, you know, that what we experience is going to hurt. That what we experience in this life is going to hurt. Yes, I know. Well, like I said all the time, I'll never know, but I can understand. I can relate. I know that it's going to be rough. I know your situation is hard. Like no one can ever feel in your shoes except Jesus. No one could ever feel your shoes except Jesus. That's a fact. But when we have that willingness to know, all right, I know what's up, then that tells us right then and there that we are ready for the submission, that we're ready for to revere God, that we're ready for God to change our mindsets for the greater good. 2, fear God in the midst of everything else. The verse keeps on going where it says, and God heard his prayers because of his deep reverence for God. Again, back in the garden. It sounds like an album name, Back in the Garden. But nonetheless, Jesus is praying, he's pleading with God, saying, are you sure? Are you sure? But behind that, are you sure? He knows that he only fears God, that he only respects God, that he has a great understanding of who God is, that God will come through in the clutch. And man, yo, that is an awesome word to hear, that God is going to come through in the clutch. Because oftentimes we're going to be like, yo, this bill's due. This bill is due, God. Like, and God's going to be like, I know. I know. I'm going to provide everything you need, though. I'm going to provide all the things that you're going to need to sustain this journey for this specific period of time, for this specific season of your life. I know you're going to experience a lot of hurt. I know you're going to experience a lot of pain. I know you're going to experience a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of things that you don't want to be in pure discomfort. I know. But you need to know who I am. I am the one who went back in time and saved you from that car accident that you never experienced. I am the one who went back and saved and brought you into this world with a great understanding of who you are meant and called to be. I am the one who they say I am. And when we have that fear, nothing else matters. Even nothing else matters at all. Period. None of that matters. Because we're truly submitted under his will now when we have that fear of him and only him. And then this last part is kind of tough. This last one's kind of tough. Because I know I mentioned like that time where, hey, Lord, the bills is due. There's going to be like a whisper, or maybe even a yell, depending on who you are, where it's going to feel like you're not being heard. But the third point is this: understand your prayers will be heard. Your prayers will be heard and then answered in Jesus' name. Yes, this season is rough. The season is hard. Everything is spiraling. Seems like you're going into a mode of desperation. Seems like you have to, us men, we tend to go to that desperation mode where if we happen to get let go of our jobs, for example, we scramble, try to figure out what to do next. Yeah, that's rough. I get it. I've been there. I have been there. And then there are times where I pray and feel like, God, are you hearing me, man? Are you hearing me? Are you listening to me? But back in the garden, Jesus was getting ready to take that cup, a cup that was too heavy for any regular man to bear. And God heard his prayers. He still heard his prayers. But he knew, God knew, that there is something greater for him to be called to. God hears your prayers. God hears them. He's listening to them. He hears all the hurt, all the crying. He knows the number in your bank account. He knows the number of issues that you're dealing with on a daily basis. He knows, he knows, he knows, he knows. But we have to just remember that he hears them, period. Because when he answers all of our prayers, not if, get that if out your head. When he answers all our prayers, just know he did it because he recognized that your mindset has changed to fear and revere only him, to look at you and say, God, I am nothing but a steward. You've provided all these opportunities for me to take. So I'm just acting on what you give me. I'm just acting on these opportunities you've given me. Mindset shift. That's all it takes. Because guess what? After our mindsets change, our prayers start to become more elevated. Our thoughts become more elevated. Our leadership becomes more elevated. Most of all, our love, not only ourselves, but for other people, becomes elevated. If that blessed your life, and I pray it will, I definitely love to see you back here on this channel this Wednesday and every Wednesday and every Monday going forward as well. But this Wednesday for Wise Guy Wednesdays, new series. We're talking. It's a new series where we talk about simple wise tips from this guy right here, and maybe even other guests that we're going to have come on. But nonetheless, come on back next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I see a whole bunch of people that view the video, but you just subscribe now, all right? Nonetheless, as we always like to do on this end of every episode, I love you. I'll see you down the road. Peace. Did I force that? Peace. See you.